Tonight, we're going through all the new evidence on Wendi Adelson from Momma Donna's trial. Welcome back to Moms for Justice, everyone. I am Carolyn, and it's so great to be back. I've not done a solo video in, 2 weeks, something like that. And that's because we were gearing up for this huge trial with Donna Adelson, something that has, now that it's here, it's so exhausting, right? Like, who here got up like first thing in the morning and got their coffee ready and literally was like vegging out on the couch watching this trial? Well, me. I have been watching this trial like crazy, and I wanted to do, I was on, first of all, I was on for a couple lunch breaks, did live podcasting for lunch breaks, and then Jocelyn and I were on Monday and Tuesday night. I was off yesterday, but I was listening. Anyway, so it's been a crazy, riveting trial, and I wanted to finally do a video on all the new things that I picked up on. And maybe one or two of those weren't new, but as far as I know, these are really new, and they only came out from this trial. So we're going to start with that in a second. Give me a thumbs up on this video, like, share it, and do not forget to subscribe. I so appreciate you all. And also, please comment below. I want to hear what you think. Ask me any questions you may have. No, I'm not an attorney. Carl Steinbeck's an attorney. He'd be the guy you'd want to ask for that kind of thing. But I think that one thing I think that my strength is I can read people very well. And I can, like, just the whole social aspect of things. I'm just really good at figuring things out when it comes to that. So go ahead, ask me a question, because I have like theories that even in this trial, I have found out that I've been kind of correct on. So that's pretty cool and validating. So we're going to start with the biggest one. Okay, well, what I feel is the biggest one. First, listen to this. Okay, let me set the stage for you. First of all, we have all seen this interview. Okay, we've seen it probably a ton of times. Most of you diehards have watched it many, many times. But let me set the stage for you because it's important to listen to it again. This is the interview by Wendi Adelson. Dan Markel was murdered around 10:55, 11 a.m. Okay, and then within an hour, she goes down Trescott Drive on her way to the liquor store. She goes down to the crime scene tape, realizes that the police are already there. She kind of flips out, does a K-turn, turns back around, goes a whole mile back the way she came, and then goes to ABC Liquors to pick up Bullet Bourbon for her Stop the Bar party she's invited to that night. She stops and she gets some gas. Remember, she gets some gas, and then she heads off to lunch at a restaurant called Mosaic. While she's at Mosaic, the police now are looking for her. They know she is the ex-wife of Dan Markel, and they need to find her to let her know what's happened. And they get her, and they ask her to come with them back to the station. And then she sits down. And this is the very beginning of this interview. And honestly, it's the first 3 or 4 minutes that are most important. And then I will point out what I think you guys probably have already figured out, but I'm just going to put it on out there in this video. So let's take a listen.
Did your ID with you?
I just listened to my voicemail.
What'd you hear? Who was your voicemail?
It's from Lisa Carey, who is my real estate agent, or who I had gone with to find a house. She just said she was driving around town, and she heard there was a shooting on Trescott.
Yeah, that's what this is about.
Okay, I'm going to stop right there because it's important to note that when Detective Isom came to Mosaic Restaurant, all he said to her was, something has happened with your ex and your kids are okay. They're at daycare. They're okay. Well, thank God, because she sure didn't check to see if they were okay 40 minutes ago when she was driving down to the crime scene, right? Anyway, in this video here, she talks about the fact that while she's sitting there, she checks her phone and there's a message there from her friend saying that she heard there was a shooting on Trescott, okay? Keep that in mind. You need to know that.
I'm sorry you had to hear it that way.
I'm sorry, I didn't know if I should...
It's all right, just leave it there. Is it still on?
It's right there.
Do you want to just hit play again for me?
Sure.
playing the
Hey,
message.
it's Lisa Carey. It is Friday, and I feel like an idiot doing this, but I just heard that there was a shooting over on Trescott, and I promise I'm not trying to be dramatic or even nosy. I don't know, just checking on you, my friend. I hope all is well. I hope your sweet boys are well, and if there's anything you need, let me know. It just ran a chill down my spine when I heard that there was something going on Trescott. All right, 212-3083. I hope all is well, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.
That's all right, you can stop it. Or does it stop automatically?
It's done.
Okay, do you have your identification with you?
At this point, she doesn't know what happened with the ex.
So you never took the last name of Markle?
No.
Adelson.
Another thing I want to say is keep in mind, her friend just told her that she heard there was a shooting, and Isom told her at the restaurant that something happened with your ex. She has those two pieces of information. Why is it that she has not broken into tears already and put the two and two together that he has been shot? She's not even acting upset at all.
Okay, Wendi with an I. Joe.
Yeah, right now, she has no reason to think anything happened to him.
There was a shooting at your home, or your ex-husband's home, at 2116 Trescott. Okay. Your ex-husband, Daniel, all right, has been taken to the hospital. He's not going to survive.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Okay. I'm not going to play the rest because it's really nauseating. Okay. But I'm going to go right to what we just heard this week from Wendi. Take a listen.
When you were approached at the restaurant, you weren't yet told that this was a shooting, were you?
I was not.
You were only told something happened with your ex-husband.
I don't even know if I was told that. I was very scared something happened to my kids, and that's why law enforcement was there, and they wouldn't tell me what was going on.
But they did reassure you that the kids were fine. You remember
They told me
that?
that law enforcement officers were with the children, which terrified me because I didn't know why my children would need law enforcement officers.
So you didn't know what this was about at all when you were in the police car?
In the car, they told me.
Okay, in the car they told you what?
They said, your ex-husband has been shot.
What? Your ex-husband has been shot. So in the interrogation interview, whatever you want to call it, the outburst of tears happened as if she's just hearing he's shot about 4 minutes into it. But right before that, she's acting like she restarted and rewound the tape and didn't know anything.
Okay. So that you learned that information prior to getting into the interview room?
Yes.
Uh-oh. That's a problem.
Okay.
So we have an inconsistent testimony right there. What does that mean? Well, again, I'm not an attorney, but derivative immunity is only good for Wendi Adelson as long as she doesn't perjure herself or there is not an inconsistent testimony that they can point out that's drastic enough that they can go before the court. Because it is my understanding that, okay, so if somebody, has a piece of information, if the prosecutor sees that there's a piece of information that was under derivative immunity and they hear perjury involved in that, how would they go about being able to now use that against her? It is my understanding that they would have to, and it's a process. You have to go before the court and you have to list each thing. And then I don't think it is something really easy, but is this right here enough for Georgia to reverse that derivative immunity on this one piece? Well, I think so. So some of these things that I'm going to mention that I have noted, some of them are new, but not necessarily, hard evidence or anything. It's just more circumstantial evidence and more things that just make her look pretty bad. And it applies to Donna as well, some of them. In fact, one of the things I said while watching this trial is that It would have made more sense for Wendi and Donna to be sitting at the defense table side by side, because honestly, it's going to waste taxpayers' money to do one on Wendi when this particular trial, with the evidence that's been presented, probably could have, convicted both of them, right? I mean, why they didn't do that, I don't know. Maybe it's because some of this information that they need on Wendi is coming out now during the Donna trial. But I got to tell you, it's frustrating because a lot of this evidence is sometimes, yeah, maybe that's not going to do anything to convict Donna, but I'm like, whoop, that would certainly work for Wendi, right? So the names, we already knew about Gibbers. Gibbers stands for, or is short for, Jew in boots. How insulting is that? It's like, hey, she came up with it. So, and he was referred to as an STD, the Dark Lord, and then of course they, frequently called him Gibbers, and then a bunch of other names. And Donna is responsible for a lot of that too. She called him. I'm not even going to repeat them, but you guys know there's a lot of really bad curse words that she called him, and it just, this is like littered throughout all this evidence for Donna, and it's just, it can be used, it can be brought up and used if Wendi ever gets indicted. Now, Wendi did admit eventually. At first she was like, no, but they were like, you would never have left Dan if it wasn't for your family. But after some more finagling and questions, eventually she basically said that she didn't know if she would have the strength to have left Dan without her family and her family's help. So that was interesting. I had never known that. Another new thing, which is really more for Donna, is that the dating websites that Wendi was on, they weren't really Wendi. It wasn't Wendi who was on them. It was actually Donna creating profiles. We're not just talking about standing over her shoulder like she did for Dan Markel when she found Dan Markel on a dating website. Like, she was literally sitting at home in her condo on the computer, like all creepy, pretending to be her daughter. Can you say catfishing? Hello? It reminds me of like Tall Hot Blonde. You guys ever see Tall Hot Blonde, or like Catfish? Except she wasn't really catfishing, but it was like, it's just creepy that you're sitting there and you're putting up pictures of your daughter and creating a profile for her. And then you're like screening guys, and then you're screenshotting the ones that you think are like really good candidates for your daughter. And you're like emailing them to Wendi. It's like really sick. It really is. And all that proves is just how controlling that Donna was. So that doesn't really go to Wendi's guilt at all. Here's another huge one. Okay. Just absolutely huge. Louis Rivera, he testified that the murder order originated with Wendi Adelson. And we had never heard him say her name before because she was always the lady with the kids. I went over this during Lunch Live and on the podcast, and I'm going to go over it again because I think it's worth mentioning. At the time that Louis Rivera was testifying in Katie's trial and Charlie's trial, he only knew her as the lady with kids at that point. Do you know what I'm saying? He did not know her name. He never knew her name at that point. He has since learned her name. So I guess what everybody is saying is the fact that he's saying Wendi now is because now he has a name to put to the lady with the kids. But what was most interesting is that there was the questioning of Louis Rivera where it was like, okay, well, how did you know how this was all going to go down? And where'd you get your information from? And he said Sigfredo. And where does Sigfredo get that information from? Well, he got it from Katie. And then the big bomb question was, where did Katie get it from? And he didn't say the lady with the kids. He said Wendi Adelson. Wendi. And he said it more than once. And then Donna's own attorney gets up and makes him like refer to it again. So that was really compelling because it's Donna's attorney is, targeting Wendi Adelson in this entire trial. I mean, they're clearly trying to deter it away from Donna and onto Wendi, at least the first 2 days of trial testimony. That's what I was seeing. So we all know the motive in the case. It's, first started off with, just pure hatred for Dan Markel because she just hates his guts. It's so obvious. You can hear it in things she has spoken about in her writing class interview, if you want to call that an interview, in the emails. Of course, Donna hates Dan, and then being denied the relocation with prejudice. And I'm hearing that Wendi did not let Donna know that the relocation was denied with prejudice. And the implication there is that Wendi didn't want her mom to know, sorry, we can't go back asking for relocation anymore, because she didn't want her mother to stop trying and pushing to find ideas to convince Dan or I don't know, maybe murder, who knows? So better employment opportunities in Miami is one of her reasons for wanting to leave. The proximity to her parents, we all know. And then this is new to me. She claimed, it came out in this trial, that she had been unhappy in Tallahassee since 2005 and unhappy with Dan. And then it came out in the trial testimony that she didn't even love Dan before they were married. So I was like, whoa, there was no love at all, nothing. And honestly, people, that's because Donna Adelson picked Dan Markel for Wendi. Wendi came home one day, and it was Donna looking over her shoulder while they're scrolling through men, and the two of them together found Dan Markel on a dating app or a dating site. I don't know if they were on a computer or what. Hey, that guy looks nice. That's probably what happened there, right? And who was it that was saying the other day? Did it come out in the trial? You know what? I listen to so much on this case that I forget sometimes where things came from. But somebody else said and confirmed, and I think it was in the trial, that the hope was when they saw Dan Markel's profile, where he was from, where he was working, Harvard, lawyer, the whole 9 yards, right? That they were hoping that he would go ahead and become a successful lawyer. And if you notice, like back in previous videos, that was my theory all along. It was all about his money-making ability, the status that he could have been as a Johnny Cochran type. He just wanted to be a law professor, which is amazing. It's a wonderful career, but for somebody who's money hungry, maybe that's not going to fly. And it came out in the trial, I just don't remember where, but it came out in the trial this week that, was she disappointed because he ended up being a professor instead of an actual trial attorney? And yes, the answer was yes. I think it was Georgia. Some questioning. I'm like, seriously, people, my brain is spinning from this. I'm fried. Anyway, so I wanted to talk about that because that could come out as evidence towards Wendi. And now that it's sort of confirmed, that would be very useful in just adding to the pile of already mounting, evidence that's already out there on her. Yes, a lot of it is circumstantial, but it's piling. It's really piling up. Another thing that I just wanted to point out that really stood out for me, and again, it's more about Donna, but she dismissed his role as a father because she wrote, only an idiot would want to be involved with the health, education, and religion of his children. Gee, what woman would not want their father of their children, the father of their children, to be involved with the health, education, and religion of his children? Now, I'm not putting down, dads across America here, because there are some really good dads out there, and Dan Markel was one of them. But they're hard to come by, right? Because after a divorce, there are some men out there that literally just take off and they leave the woman hanging, and she's taking care of everything. She's the one taking care of health, education, and religion, not the man. And here is somebody that has stepped up to the plate. He loved his children to the point, people, that when Wendi had them, it was her time to have the kids, he would want to go over to the little preschool and sit down at a table and have breakfast or lunch with them. What father does that? Not a lot. I'm married to somebody like that, but I know that they are few and far between. It is hard to find somebody like that. And it just blows my mind that this woman could be like, how dare he? I mean, this is what women dream of, right? We dream of having a guy that steps up to the plate like this, whether you're still married to him or you're divorced, So I'm just blown away. And when you hear those calls between Charlie and Donna, where they're talking about Dave Vitale, oh, he's so good for these kids and he likes the kids. And then Charlie's talking about how you wouldn't want, when I get home, I wouldn't want somebody's kid, farting in my face. Well, I mean, they were trying to talk about what a gem Dave Vitale was and how the kids need a father like that. And that's exactly what Dan was. He was exactly that. And you got rid of him. And it just blows my mind. The fact is that Dan Markel didn't end up being the money-making machine they wanted him to be for Wendi. And then on top of that, he ended up coming across, appearing more successful than Wendi. And that was just like another, attack. That's what I really feel. I think she knows that to be true. She'll never admit that, but I think it's very obvious in this evidence what's coming out and what the nature of the hatred was for this man. Okay, so I want to go through this timeline that was given by Sergeant Corbett. It is so telling. And guys, I took my notes. You can't see, but I took lots of notes on this. I got a good handle on what went on. And if you feel that you need a recap of it, I'm your girl. So June 2nd, it starts, okay? So they need to make this trip to Tallahassee in June. It is the first attempted trip to go to Tallahassee to, murder Dan Markel. He has to rent a car. So Katie Magbanoa drives him to, I think it's called the Safeway or something like that. He goes to rent a car. She drops him off and leaves because obviously he'll have a ride once he gets the rental car. He rents a car. And hang on with me here. He rents a car and he begins to drive away and do whatever, to get ready to go. That on the way out, he gets pulled over and he gets a ticket. Well, the ticket is going to tie him back to the car he rented. So he ends up going back to the rental place and renting a new car, a different type and model, because guess what kind of car he rented? A silver Nissan. Yeah. A silver Nissan. Guess who drives a silver Nissan? That would be Jeff Lacasse. The only way that they would know the details like this of the kind of car that they needed to have on that trip to go murder Dan Markel and frame Jeff Lacasse, because why else get a silver Nissan, right? It's because you're trying to frame Jeff. I mean, there's just no other way around it. But you know what? That didn't work out for him because he got a ticket. So now he's like, darn, I can't get a silver Nissan now. So he goes back and he gets the other car, which is similar, but it's not a Nissan, but it's similar. I think it's the Altima. Similar in color. They show pictures of it in the trial. And it's very close doppelganger for the Nissan that Jeff drives. But it would have been better, right, if they had the Nissan, the silver Nissan, because then they could really, go after Jeff. So I was sitting there and this was coming out in the testimony, and I got my coffee. I'm sitting on the couch and I'm like, whoa, I could not believe that came out. So how long were they holding on to that for? Well, those are the kind of pieces that Georgia, I think, has been holding on to. And they're just now coming out now because they can be used for Donna Adelson's trial. But now we know that she has that for Wendi. June 4th, Miami to Tallahassee, Sigfredo and Rivera go down. They return on the 6th without the job being done. Also, when they went down there, they were surveilling Dan Markel from the park area there, just so you guys know. Then I'm going to move to June 7th. Text between Charlie and Donna about working on the birthday gift. Now, they kind of go a little out of order here, but they talked about Charlie and Donna and the text messages about, are you working on that birthday gift? And she didn't want Harvey to know. It was a big old secret, right? This is the day after the first attempt did not succeed. So, the murder wasn't done. So obviously something had to be done. And now it turned into, now we're going to make this a birthday gift for Harvey. So July 3rd, Evite goes out about the birthday party for July 5th. It goes to Wendi by Donna. Okay. On July 5th, the birthday party happens in Miami and everybody is there. They're all there, including Robert Adelson is there. This is the other big one, okay? The very next day, July 6th, Wendi is in Miami still from being at the birthday party. And a text from Wendi goes out to Dan asking if he is in town from the 14th through the 18th because she wants the kids on the 16th. This is significant because the rental has to happen on the 15th and the murder of Dan Markel has to happen on the 18th. And Dan is supposed to have the kids from the 11th through the 17th. So, and one day later, July 7th, while still in Miami, she creates a calendar entry and then she goes and cancels her cable at Aqua Ridge Way and decides to go streaming for her entertainment from that point on. So we've got artwork being taken down on the walls. Jeff testified that artwork was taken down on the walls. Okay. We also know that before the murder, they had to watch a broken TV and Jeff wanted to go into the other room. I'm assuming it's her bedroom or guest bedroom to watch the TV that was in there that was not broken. But Wendi freaked out and did not want him to go and watch the TV in that room, as the testimony tells us. Well, maybe there were moving boxes. Maybe there are suitcases packed in there. Artwork is coming down. Can't go in any other room. Why is that? Are there moving boxes? Maybe. And then she cancels her cable. The only person who cancels, is somebody that's about ready to move, right? Really damning stuff. July 11th, Donna to Wendy's email about the Geek Squad for the TV service, advising the appointment was made for the 18th between 8 and 12. Technicians came to the house. The contract is under Harvey's name, but everything was communicated by Donna. On July 14th, this is also, when things were happening real weird between Wendi and Jeff, the yoga date and all that. And I need to keep you on the hook for 2 more weeks, Jeff, because, I have to decide if I still want to be with you. Obviously, stringing him along because she needed, Jeff to be a prominent figure in her life as a relationship that is going south, right? Okay. The same time that's going on in Tallahassee, on July 14th in Miami area near Charlie's house, Katie and Charlie are together. This is the night before the rental. July 15th, Sigfredo calls a comfort rental. But here's interesting. He didn't just call the same rental place that he got a car from last time. He actually called, in the testimony, it says he called multiple places to get a rental. Well, why are you calling multiple places? Well, maybe you're calling around saying, who's got a silver Nissan? Right? Who's got a silver Nissan? Obviously, he couldn't get a silver Nissan this time. So he went to a Save Gas and got a rental agreement. This time it was Rivera who got it for a Toyota Prius. Charlie and Katie then are talking after the rental is secured. And then Charlie calls Donna right after that on a landline saying, hey, I got the car, but I couldn't get the Nissan this time. I don't know. Phone records prove that it is Donna because Harvey's cell phone was away from the Adelson residence at that time. So the defense was trying to confuse this jury and say that the landline, calls to the landline could have been Harvey. Well, on this particular occasion, it couldn't have been. And it was able to be proven that it was Donna that had to be on the call because Harvey's cell phone was pinging far away. So there's that. Charlie then calls again later and Katie and Sigfredo start talking too. Now, I get real more specific with times for the day of the murder, but for here, I'm just giving you what are the chances that these people are talking back and forth and there's not a conspiracy to murder going on, So now on July 16th, the hitmen leave for Tallahassee. Charlie, Katie, and the hitmen are in communication this entire time. So that's really important. July 17th, they're scoping out Dan's house again. And then late that night, there's communication between 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. Charlie and Donna, Katie and Sigfredo, Charlie to Katie after midnight. And then Katie calls Charlie again after midnight. And then Charlie calls back again after midnight. I mean, it's just, why? Just so happens? I don't know. Then Charlie calls Donna, and there's no duration on that. And they determine that he called Donna by mistake, and he just hung up and meant to call Katie instead. Okay, July 18th, the morning of the murder. And this is everything that's happening between 8 and 12. They pointed out that at 8 a.m., there was some sort of calendar entry about getting the TV fixed. It's important to know that she knows enough to delete that before later on the day she's in the interview room with Detective Isom. So that's pretty damning. 8:09, Wendi calls Donna. 8:09, Donna calls her back. Then there's text that they're on the way to fix the TV from Donna. Then on 8:20, Wendi texts Charlie, "This is so sweet!" Exclamation point. This text I'm talking about, "This is so sweet," was also deleted that day and deleted prior to her getting into the interview room with Detective Isom. 9:04, Wendi gets a voicemail from Dan. Yeah, people, they played that call in the courtroom, and it was heartbreaking. The camera did go on Phil Markel. It was very difficult to watch him go through that, right? To hear your son's voice, who's no longer here. But there's a part of it that was like, I got satisfaction at overhearing it because Donna's sitting in the room and hearing it. And I just keep thinking back to the fact that June Umchinda said that she was out on the balcony with Donna Adelson, and Donna started crying and saying, it's like Dan is back from the grave. Well, let me tell you, there's a lot of true crime stories out there. And it's not often that there's a recording played of the victim who is no longer with us. And it is chilling every single time. You know what I mean? I remember the Jodi Arias case, they would play Travis Alexander's recordings, and it was chilling to hear his voice. You know what I mean? So here's Dan just, doing life, just living life. He's in a better place these days. He's with Amy. He's got, the kids until a certain time. I think it was, let me see, I wrote it down. 4:30. He's supposed to keep the boys until 4:30 that day on the 18th. And Wendi texts him. Oh, in the voicemail message, he's talking about how he wants to, take them swimming. And Wendi texts Dan and says no to the swimming idea, answering his voicemail by text at 9:12 a.m. And then on 9:13, he says, I keep the boys until 4:30. And they start arguing about the time with the boys. And then at 9:15, the hitmen are now tailing him while he's like this back and forth between him and Wendi. The hitmen are behind him. Okay. And then at 9:19, Wendi calls Charlie and talks to him for 18 minutes and 17 seconds. While on the phone with Charlie, Dan is texting her back again. At 9:38, after she hangs up with Charlie, Wendi texts back Dan after call and says, being nice was fun while it lasted. See you at 4:30. So they were fighting right up until his death. And the guy had no idea. Nobody would ever think that just, regular old bickering with your ex-wife is going to turn into your murder. Okay, so Charlie, Donna, and Katie then attempt to call after this time. Charlie calls Wendi at 10:06 for a very short duration. Then at 10:09, Charlie calls Katie for a couple minutes, and then Dan was shot about an hour after that. Everybody else's calls stopped. Oh, pretty bad. Records show that Dan and his attorney, they were attempting to reach each other. They were trying to set up a time so they could either talk later or get together, and that never went through. They couldn't reach each other, and that last attempt was at 10:34 a.m., and he was killed just a few minutes after that. Sigfredo and Rivera's phone location are shown at Premier Health and Fitness while Dan is working out between 9:15 and 10:38. The hitmen's phones are turned off after this, okay? And at 12:18, 2 incoming calls happened on Sigfredo's phone, but because it was off, that's how they knew the phones were turned off, because it goes right into voicemail or just, yeah. 12:29, the notifications pop-up showed in the Cellbrite information, and that told him that he was powering his phone back on at 12:29. So then Sigfredo calls Katie at 12:30. Notice, nobody asked about the phone call to Katie. That is a big deal. We all know from Louis, that Sigfredo called Katie and said, it's done. And she said, I know. And this is like a piece we still don't have yet. Still waiting to find out what the deal is with that. But notice that Georgia had never asked Louis Rivera about that again. And I can only say that the only explanation for that is that she's holding on to that information for a little somebody else's trial, right? I mean, I can't imagine what other reason that she's not asking him about it. Okay, Wendi's phone. Well, some of Wendi's phone was in what I just talked about, but just to concentrate only on Wendi, she left Aqua Ridge at 12:31 p.m. Between 12:35 and 12:47 p.m. That is when she drove a mile down Trescott to the crime scene tape, turned around, and fled away. Didn't ask anybody what was going on in front of her ex's house and her kid's house, right? Because Dan's house is also the kid's house. So you don't want to know? You don't want to know if everything's okay? Is her house maybe on fire? You know, it'd be nice to know. Think about this, people. I thought about this. We're always saying, like, why wouldn't you want to know if your kids are okay? How about the fact that maybe it was a gas leak? Maybe it was a fire. Well, he had bedrooms in Trescott for those kids. Their belongings were in there. Wouldn't you want to know if something was destroyed or something happened to the house? I don't know, just something to think about. Sergeant Corbett testified that there were no attempts to call Dan or the kids on her phone. So not only did she not ask, or she didn't drive to daycare, but there's no record of her phone, like picking. I mean, the very least you could do, you can't get out of your car. You don't have like the time to get out of your car, whatever. That's crazy. But how about a phone call? How about just quickly call, you know, and you know that she's got the daycare number saved in her phone number. You know it's got to be there. It's just a quick boop, you know. Hey, are my kids there? She didn't call. She was talking to Dan earlier. So it's not like they weren't talking. Why wouldn't you just call and go, hey, is everything all right? Also, the area of Thomasville Road and Mosaic. They put a map on the screen during the testimony of Corbett, right? And they show the map kind of the way I put it up in my crime scene drive-through video. And they show the shorter route from Aqua Ridge to Mosaic. And this is not to say that other YouTubers haven't done this. I'm not saying that. But I did do the whole map quest and count out the minutes and the miles and all that. So he testified that there were 3 other liquor stores over there in that area, including an ABC. But he also said that the route she took was 9 minutes out of the way. And that is exactly what I calculated. So I was proud of myself that I got that right. And I heard it live at the trial. It was kind of cool. They also talked about 6:46 p.m., the ATM withdrawal from Pembroke Pine. The hitmen drove on through. There's pictures of them there. Katie and Sigfredo were also talking and meeting up at Rivera's house at 9:20 and 9:42 that night. She dropped her kids on the way. This is Katie Magbanoa now. She dropped her kids on the way to be with a babysitter because she knew that this was a big night. This is a big night. She knows what was going on. So she just sent her kids off to be safe with another babysitter. She knew she was going to go to Charlie. She sees Sigfredo and Rivera first, okay? And then she heads over to Charlie. So then Charlie and Katie call, and Charlie tells Katie in the text that he isn't feeling good. Gee, I wonder why. So Wendi makes a call to Donna during her interview to tell her about the murder at 7:04 p.m. And then right after that, immediately following that, Donna texts Charlie, call us ASAP, exclamation point. And within an hour, Harvey and Donna are hightailing it to Charlie's. Okay, so the phone records are showing us that Donna was there at 8:59 p.m. outside of Charlie's house with Harvey. She texts him, just outside your house. Charlie responds, give me 10 minutes. Okay, Charlie arrives at his house eventually somewhere between 9:21 and 9:40 p.m. Harvey and Donna waited, they said, about 30 minutes, so at Charlie's, and then they left. They proceed to head towards Tallahassee because now with the news of Dan Markel's death, they're going to be with their sweet, sweet golden child. Okay. And then they eventually stop and, I guess, sleep at a Hilton. I saw the Hilton at around 1:25 a.m. on this. Also, Detective Corbett took this actual drive, and believe it or not, he took this drive to just check everything out, the timeline, and he took the drive on July 18th of this year. I thought that was pretty symbolic. So anyway, he did testify that you could easily get off and on to the exits around Charlie's house. July 19th, Charlie is home in the morning. This is the very next morning. Katie has already testified to the fact that she went there on the night of the 18th. She's there to get the money. Okay, they take some Xanax. He's panicking. Charlie's like pacing back and forth. He's holding a gun in his hand. He's like freaking out about the fact that this just happened. You'd only be freaking out if you know that you just, got somebody killed, let alone your brother-in-law. So anyway, Katie gets up the morning of the 19th. She leaves and goes to Louis Rivera's house. And she's got the money in her trunk. She never once counts it. She never once checks. She never looks, at all. And what's even funnier is that Sigfredo takes it out of the trunk and takes it. And then eventually within a day or two goes to Katie's house to give her cut. And Katie testifies that he just goes and puts the money, her cut, in her closet. And then Katie says, I never counted it. What a liar. How do you not count it? And then if she is lying, why would she lie about that? It makes no sense. I mean, she's coming clean now, so why lie? So that I'm like torn about that. Like, why is she lying about that? Because I know that nobody would not open that bag and count your cut. I mean, the whole reason why you did this, sweetheart, is because you wanted money. You said it yourself. Her motivation was money. And then that's when, like, 2 days later, instead of counting it, she just starts like taking what she needs as she needs it and using it. That's so strange, right? I don't know. Another thing that was a really big deal for me is on cross-examination of Sergeant Corbett. He testified that the extraction from Wendy's phone, like when they took the phone and they went to take everything off her phone, was not a complete extraction. So, you know, we've heard Wendi testify many times before, I gave him my phone, I fully cooperated. Okay. And is it her fault they didn't fully extract it? No, but the fact is that's the truth. He's saying they didn't extract it fully. So it's very interesting. And why wasn't it thorough? Why wasn't it a full extraction? What happened there? And is it too late to get any more information that we would need? I don't know. Maybe since then it's been fully extracted and he's just testifying that at that time they could not fully extract everything from her phone. I could only hope that they were able to later. So that's the show today, and I hope you enjoyed the video. I, just basically relayed my notes, pointed out some things so they're easier to understand if you didn't understand them all, or maybe you haven't been around, or you work like normal people and you're not able to watch the trial. Today, the testimony was amazing. I'm going to do a video on it, but I'm waiting for it all to be finished. But today was like so much fun to watch because it was all the conversations and how the story unfolded. But I just loved that the Sammy guy really messed with them. I mean, Katie was like at one point screaming and cursing her head off. I mean, they're panicking. They're like roaches going in different directions. They're like freaking out. And poor Donna, she's just been suffering. And I don't want to say poor Donna, I don't feel bad for her, but I mean, like, can you imagine how much angst she felt? Like how much stress she had been under, knowing that this big guy, scary guy approached her on the street and they don't know. And like totally, this guy is messing with their heads. You guys have to watch today's. And tidbit, if you tried to listen with your earbuds, you're not really going to get the full story because the transcript is up on the screen and you've got to watch the transcript because you just won't understand. It's very difficult to understand. They did go over the Dolce Vita video. They went over, everything. So there's still more tomorrow. And I'm like, I'll be on soon with another video for you. Make sure you guys subscribe, like, and share. Join us for our podcast next week. And I'll be on lunch break tomorrow with Jocelyn. So anyway, I will see you later.